Since the dawn of civilization, Pokemon trainers around the world have strived for the ultimate battle strategy that would guarantee the defeat of all enemies in their path. The great trainer and philosopher Barry famously wrote, "Make certain all your attacks hit. Avoid enemy attacks for sure. You do that, you'd never lose. You'd be the invincible trainer." And this is absolutely true. And what easier way to accomplish that idea than the ultimate moves that knock out every Pokemon in their path, leaving no chance for response. The legendary one-hit KO moves, on a successful hit, would do the job here, but they're generally far too risky, and ultimately, this usually makes them very bad. A hard-locked 30% accuracy, with additional stipulations regarding type, speed, and level, all working against the idea, makes them useless much more often than they are game-winning. If only there was a way to ensure that they hit every time, then it would be the ultimate combo. An unstoppable, unanswerable force. Unfortunately, however, Pokemon has worked hard over the years to make sure that these moves, and the idea of this forbidden combo, stay high risk and close to impossible. But many have tried, and there might still be a chance for this untenable dream, one possibility that we're going to focus in on closely today. So let's take a look at these moves, their users, and how they have tried to mitigate that risk over the years. Risk mitigation is, and always will be, the name of the game. Whether I'm trying to ensure that my horn drill is hitting during a crucial fight, or just staying safe at home, I want to take as few risks as possible. So when it's raining out, I put on my jacket, and when I'm using my computer at home, I use NordVPN. But Drew, what's a VPN? And why use one? Well, a virtual private network protects you and your data when you're using the internet by encrypting your data and masking your IP address so you can be safe from anything that's out there, like phishing scams, password thieves, or DDoS attacks. Just like putting on a jacket in the rain, why take the risk? You can grab a big discount on 2 years of Nord right now with a bonus 4 months for free on top of it. Just visit nordvpn.com/Droomish. Nord allows you to connect to their servers across the globe, making you able to access the internet and its content around the world. It goes a long way for me in keeping the internet the way it should be, avoiding regional restrictions on streaming content, and not having my search results catered to my exact geographic coordinates. And if you're feeling up in the air about it, Nord offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it before making the call. Head to nordvpn.com/Droomish to check out what they've got, and huge thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Many have aimed for the forbidden combo across the generations. In the first and second gen games, an accuracy check on any move could be waived entirely by using the item X accuracy, making for easy to access, repeatable, guaranteed hits. And this indiscriminately applied to every move, including the OHKO moves. The item is a cheap and easy grab at each game's department stores, so you could load up on items and then clear the Elite Four using Horn Drill on every turn without missing a hit. The combo is good enough to be an important component of the Gen 1 speedrun. It's extremely useful, there's no doubt. But Pokemon was young, and still changing a lot, and in Gen 3, all of the pieces that allowed for this combination were nerfed. The accuracy of OHKO moves could no longer be modified by changes to the accuracy or evasion stat, and X accuracy was changed to be more in line with the other X items and just give a boost instead of removing the check. So the hunt was back on, for that guaranteed hit. Guaranteed knockout, never get hit combo, just like Barry foretold. Hope would come in the next generation, which would see an unusual ability introduced in Diamond and Pearl. Exclusive to the Machamp family, No Guard ensures that every move used by the Pokemon hits in exchange for every move being used against the Pokemon also hits. Everything's guaranteed. And the Machamp family was an interesting wielder for this type of ability. In Gen 1, the OHKO move Fissure could be taught to the family by TM, but it was only a TM in that generation, and there was no way to transfer the Pokemon up from Gen 2 to Gen 3. The Game Boy Color hardware was simply incompatible with that of the Game Boy Advance at the time. There was an uncrossable divide between the ability and the move. But with No Guard simply existing, the idea was there. The seed had been planted. Maybe in time, Pokemon from the original games would somehow become accessible again, and give way for the seemingly forbidden combo. And years later, with the technology of the 3DS, that divide would finally become crossable. The first 2 generations of Pokemon games were put on the 3DS eShop as virtual console titles, with full transfer support to the new Pokemon Bank storage system. Finally, after 5 generations, there was an official close to the gap, and Game Boy Color Pokemon could be moved to modern hardware with these releases. But these Pokemon would need to be changed slightly on transfer to the newer games. They would need to have their data structures updated, giving them the traits of modern Pokemon. Things like natures, personality values, and abilities. And one quirk in that updating process was that all Virtual Console Pokemon would receive their hidden ability, and only their hidden ability on transfer. Hidden abilities were added in Gen 5 with the Dream World, and gave Pokemon even more customization and tools to be used in battle, but could also be very difficult to obtain, and even be exclusive to events or individual encounters in some extremely niche cases. And so for most Pokemon, this was a huge boon that made getting those options much easier. There was now unparalleled access to the hidden abilities of the first 251 Pokemon, which sounds like it would be a great thing for everyone, but not for our old buddy Machamp. With No Guard being one of its usual abilities, any members of the family transferred from the Virtual Console titles would be locked out of the option, instead paired with the hidden ability Steadfast. So Fissure Machamps could be brought to the modern generation, but none of them could have the correct ability. The transfer could finally be made. The goal was so close, but with some clever maneuvering on Pokemon's behalf, the combo was prevented from happening once again. But if there ever came a way to get a Pokemon off of its hidden ability, maybe then there would be another chance. A generation later, Pokemon Sword and Shield would see a long sought after item introduced to the series with the Ability Patch. When used on a Pokemon, the patch would swap the Pokemon's regular ability out for its hidden one. It was a long-awaited accessibility measure for competitive Pokemon, and was also packaged alongside a handful of changes that made building teams more approachable than it had ever been before. But it still didn't swap hidden abilities back to the regular one. It was only a one-way ticket. And so there still remained a handful of Virtual Console Pokemon without access to certain ability and move combinations, because they couldn't switch back to their regular abilities. Certain moves like Curse and Teleport, and most importantly Fissure, that could only be brought in from those Gen 1 and 2 games, were unable to be paired with certain Pokemon on their regular abilities. And it seemed after this point that the dream was officially dead forever. Following an update to the way Pokemon's cloud storage system, Pokemon Home, stored Pokemon's movesets, Sword and Shield would be the last set of games that would allow Pokemon transferred from previous generations to keep any legacy moves that they got along the road, perhaps in an attempt to remove exclusivity surrounding transfer from older gens. The update created a system where all Pokemon would have game-specific movesets moving forwards, and a new, generic set would be generated upon being moved beyond Sword and Shield. And there were definitely some decent reasons for doing this. Uniformity of available tools for Pokemon, leveling the playing field for those who don't have a way to make the transfer chain up from Gen 3 to Gen 9, but I do still see it as a pretty unfortunate break from the norm, some dulling of the personality and sentiment that certain transfer mods have had for me. But that being said, these Pokemon could still interact with the cloud process offered by Pokemon Home and not lose their original moves in that single set of games, Sword and Shield, which was a nice thought at the time. But it didn't really matter much until Scarlet and Violet made a slight change to how our old friend the Ability Patch works. In Gen 9, the patch now changes hidden abilities back to normal. It's a two-way street, finally giving those transfer Pokemon a possible avenue to get those lost combos back. But this comes with a number of drawbacks. First and foremost, the movesets obviously wouldn't stick in Scarlet and Violet, they'd get their new game-specific moveset. But if a Pokemon was sent from Sword and Shield over to Scarlet and Violet, used an ability patch, and then sent back, the chain could be made with the transfer-only moves on the regular abilities. It would only be in Sword and Shield, but once again, there was hope for Machamp. He just needed to be added to a mainline game that had an ability patch in it. But before he was even given the chance, tragedy struck again. In the same update that added support for transferring to and from Scarlet and Violet, abilities were also made game-specific. And this would seem like the true nail in the coffin for Machamp and his transfer-only Virtual Console friends. This game of cat and mouse was finally over. Abilities were game-specific, and there would be no cross-game ability patching. The prophesized no-guard Fissure Machamp would never happen in any game. Not now, not ever. Barry's teachings had failed. But several months later, what was thought to be a feature in line with the new moveset regulation actually turned out to be a bug, to the shock of the community, and transferable abilities were restored with the home transfer path right alongside them. With a modicum of time and resources, Pokemon with Game Boy Color exclusive moves could be obtained on Virtual Console, moved up to Gen 8, sent to Gen 9 through home, had their hidden abilities switched back in Scarlet and Violet, and then finally returned to Sword and Shield with never before seen kits and possible combos. The first trade-back Pokemon in over 20 years, something not seen since Bill's Time Machine was introduced in Gold and Silver, allowing certain never before seen combos to be sent to Red, Blue, and Yellow. For the first time, we'll be able to see incredible combos in Gen 8 like Curse Technician Scizor and Teleport knockoff Magic Guard Clefable. But you already know what the most important combo is. Machamp isn't available in Scarlet and Violet, but if it makes the regional decks in a game that has the patch in it from now on, and they don't decide to change the rules again, the ridiculous dream will finally be possible in Sword and Shield. It might be in a generation that is phased out of relevance and probably isn't seeing a resurgence anytime soon, but it will be possible. A one-hit KO move that never misses. An absolutely legendary playground strategy. Barry's prophecy can still come true, and that which they worked so hard to ensure never came to be will finally come to light. Even if it's not actually that good, if Machamp isn't built right or fast enough for the job, if it's just a meme, if it's just a joke, none of that matters. Yes, of course I know about the battle ready mark. I'm not trying to climb the ladder on a 5-year-old game. It's the principle of the thing. They've told us that we couldn't for so long, and someday, we just might be able to do it anyway. The truly forbidden Pokemon combo, never missing a move that's guaranteed to clear anything in its path. An unstoppable Machamp that's mere existence has been prevented at every turn. A dream held by the great trainer Barry that has been passed on to us. A barely lit torch handed down through the generations. The dream burns on. That's all I got for you folks. Droomish out.